Hey guys, hope you're well. So here we have a grade 12 2022 September exam, mathematical literacy paper 1. It's 150 marks and 3 hours. If you would like to download the paper, just check the description below. So with this question, we will be doing it in parts. So here is the first question. Then there's going to be a second question and a third one. Okay, so let's get started. It says that to determine the price of petrol per litre in South Africa, the current petrol pricing model uses 4 main components shown in the table below. Okay, and then it's got the 4 different components, such as the basic, the levies, the road accident fund, and the petrol levy. Okay, let's just see what else we have here. Let's just go straight to the question. So it says that show how the price of 19 Rand 47 per litre of petrol in November 2021 was determined. Okay, so what we would do is we would go to the November pricing of November 2021, not 2011, and then they want to know how did they work out 19 Rand and 47 per litre. Well, they told us up at the top here that to determine the price, the current petrol price uses 4 components, and these are the 4 components. So we are just going to have to go add these 4 numbers together, and that should give us the 19.47. Let's go see if that does work out. So we could say 9 Rand 37 plus 4 Rand and 9 cents plus 2 Rand and 18 cents plus 3 Rand and 83. Go ahead, type that all in on your calculator. And that gave us perfect 19 Rand and 47 cents. Okay, so they're just adding up those numbers over there. Just a little bit more about this table. These ones are the same, but that's just for 2011. Here they're just showing a petrol price increase from 2011 to 2021, okay? So they're just showing you the increases of 49%. This one was increased by 114%, and so on and so forth. And then they're just showing you the petrol price in 2011, and then in 2021, and the percentage increase. Okay, so let's move on to the next part. The next part says, write down the percentage increase of the last price, of the least price determining component of the price per okay, wait, is something wrong with me? But I'm really confused. Write down the percentage increase of the least price determining component of the price per litre of petrol. Okay, so they're saying which component contributes the least, and it'll be the same over here. Which one contributes the least? Well, I'll just take the lowest price, I guess. So it's the one that only contributes 0.80. Let's just make sure that in 2021 it's also the lowest. Yes. Okay, so it's the road accident fund that contributes the smallest amount to the price of petrol. Okay? So it says write down the percentage increase. So the percentage increase would be 173. So we can just say 173%. This question says, show how the basic petrol price, so here's your basic petrol price, in November 2021 was determined using the basic petrol price of 2011. Okay, so here's the basic petrol price in 2011. Then to get to 2021, there was a 49% increase. Okay, so let's go see what happens if you take 6 Rand 29 and you increase it by 49%. There are 2 ways that you can do this. I will show both. Let me actually show both like this. Okay, so method number 1. And then I will also show a method number 2. So for method number 1, you're just going to take 49% of 6 Rand 29. And we know that so you could type that on the calculator. Just remember to use the percentage key. If you don't want to do that, you can say 49 over 100. Now, remember, of means multiply. If you had to go work this out, you're going to get 3.0821. I'm not going to round off because that's not my final answer. And so then that's the percentage increase. So then you can just add it onto the original. So you could just say 6 Rand 29 plus 3 Rand and then 0821, and if you had to work that out, you get 9 Rand and 37 cents if you round to the nearest 2 decimals. And that's what they got. Okay, now method number 2 is the following. So we already have the 6 Rand 29. Well, let me show you this. You see how I said 49%, 49%, and then I went and got the answer, and then I added it on to the original. Okay, so what you can do, instead of saying 49%, you can just say 149%. You can say 149%, because then you're taking the original price, which is the 100%. That's the 100% of what you already had. And then we added on 49%. So how much are we actually adding together? We're adding 149%. So you can just do it in one step if you wanted to. So you would say 149 over 100 multiplied by 6.29. And that gives you the exact same answer, 9.37. Okay, so this question will carry on. So here's the first question. Here is the second question. And then there's a third question. Okay, so let's start. It says that Jane has a cell phone on a prepaid arrangement with a network that provides 1 gigabyte of data at a cost of 149 Rand. Okay, and then these are just little conversions over here. And then table 2 shows a list of cell phone applications that Jane updated. And the data used to update. Okay, so you've got YouTube, Messages, Facebook, Dropbox, Google Drive, all of these things that she updated. It says, determine the data that was used to update Facebook. Okay, so you see how they've given us the values to update all of these different apps. Now, they told us that the total data was 400,45. So that we can use that number together with these 4 numbers to work out what Facebook should have been. So, because we know that the 27,45 plus the 90 plus the Facebook, which I'll just call X, plus the 43 plus the 125, if you add all of that together, it's supposed to give you 400,45. Now it just becomes a mathematical thing. So there's different ways you could do this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to go add these 4 values together so long. I'm just going to go type those 4 numbers on my calculator. Okay, and that gives us 285.45. Then we're still going to say plus X, and then equals to 400,45. Now, there's different ways of handling this next part. So you must obviously do what's comfortable. But what you eventually want to end up with is that X is going to be equal to 400,45 minus 285,45. And if you had to go do that, you should end up with 115, and then remember the units, megabytes or MB. Okay, so that is what the data for Facebook. The next question says, calculate the total cost of the data used in updating the above 5 cell phone applications. So that's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we need to know the previous answer, which was 115 megabytes. If you're ever nervous in a test because you think you maybe got this one wrong, then remember that they'll mark with your original answer, okay? Because obviously if you got the previous question wrong, you're also going to get this one wrong. But they know that, so they'll just take your previous answer and they'll still see what you would have done. And then they'll still give you marks, okay? They mark with your mistake. So don't ever, because you couldn't do the first question, just give up on all of the others, okay? They'll mark with your mistakes. So we know that the cost of data, they give for 1 gigabyte, that's 149 Rand. Okay, so what we can do is we can say that 1 gigabyte is 149 Rand. Okay, now we slowly but surely have to change the 1 gigabyte all the way down to 400,45 megabytes. Okay, so I think let's first change the gigabyte to megabyte. So we know that 1 gigabyte is 1,000 megabytes. Okay, so we can say 1,000 megabytes. That'd also be 149 Rand, because these two are the same. Now, Okay, I just moved it up here to get a bit more space. Now, all that you do now is you just try get this to become 1 megabyte. How can I change this to 1 megabyte? What could I divide this number with to become a 1? Well done if you said that you can divide this by 1,000, but what you do to the one side, you must do to the other side. So that's going to give us 1 megabyte, okay? And then on the right-hand side, you're going to end up with 0.149. Just don't round this off because we're busy doing a conversion, okay? So they're saying that 1 megabyte is now this price. Now we realize that we don't have 1 megabyte, we have 400.45 megabytes. So all that you do now is you multiply this number. What can you multiply this number with to get this number? Well, you could just multiply it by 400.45 because 1 multiplied by that is just going to give us that. And then what you do to the one side, you have to do to the other side. Okay. So on the left, we're going to end up with 400.45 megabytes. And if you type this on the calculator, we end up with 59 Rand. Now you can round off to 2 decimal places, .67. So it'll cost 59 Rand and 67 cents to be able to update all of those apps. Okay, now this question says, calculate the data balance in kilobytes remaining after updating all of the applications. Okay, so remember that Jane receives 1 gigabyte. Okay, that's how much she receives in the beginning. So let's draw a circle. She gets 1 gigabyte. Now, let's just change everything to kilobytes because they've asked us to work in kilobytes. So to change a gigabyte to a kilobyte, you can do the following. So you can say that 1 gigabyte equals 1,000 megabytes. Okay. Now to go from megabyte to kilobyte, you have to multiply by 1,000. You see, to change 1 megabyte becomes 1,000 kilobytes. So we're going to have to multiply this by 1,000, okay? So 1,000 megabyte, if you multiply that by 1,000, it becomes 1 million kilobytes. So we have 1 million kilobytes, okay? Now, this is in megabyte. So we could say 400.45 megabyte. Then to change that to kilobyte, remember you have to multiply it by 1,000. And that's going to become 400,450 kilobytes. So if we think about a big circle, at the beginning of each month, she receives 1 million kilobytes. She uses 400,450 kilobytes to update all of her apps. So we got to work out this leftover amount. So the way that you would do that is you'll just say 1 million, take away 400,450, and if you work that out, you get 599,550, and that's kilobytes. So this question will carry on. So here I've got, they say that annexure A, which is this that I've added over here. Now, the first question I've got down here. Then there's going to be a second question over there. And a third question. Okay, so let's start. It says that annexure A shows an income and expenditure statement for Bazingo Private School. The statement shows a comparison of budgeted and actual values for the 2020 year. So it says, okay, so let's just read that again. Calculate the total actual income for the school in 2020. Oh, okay, so I guess it's total, the actual income. So they're wanting us to find this value over here. Well, I mean, the way that it works is if you look carefully, let's just look at this as an example. If you have a total income of 650,500 and then your expenses are 561,000, then if you just subtract these two from each other, or if you say this one minus that one, because this one is an expense, it's money going out, then that should give us this number, which is your total profit that the school makes for that particular year. Okay, so you can just go type that on the calculator if you want to just to go check it. It also does the same over here. Because this column up here, this row, that's like the summary of everything. So you could ignore all of this. If you just want to know how the school did, you could just say, okay, listen, I don't care about what was the salary, what was the school fee, what was the tuck shop. I just want to know how much money came into the school. So that would be that amount over there. And how much was the expenses? That amount over there. Okay, the school made a profit in 2019. If you then wanted to go see exactly what they spent their money on, you could go look at salaries, admin, feeding, tuck shop, school fees. Then you could go look at all of the stuff that is underneath. Okay, so this is just a summary of how the school did. So it says calculate the total actual income for the school in 2020. So we're just going to look at these values. Okay, so unfortunately in 2020 the school actually made a loss, quite a big loss. It's probably COVID, because it is 2020, you know. So the school made a huge loss. So what we can do is we can set up some type of mathematical equation. We can say that this number, which we don't know what it is, so we can say x minus, remember you always minus your expenses. For example, I said here, this number minus this number. So we're just going to say x because we don't know what this number is, and we're going to take away this 487,776,50, and then we're going to make that equal to what it's supposed to be equal to, which is a negative number. Shame, guys. 026,50. Okay, so you make it equal to a negative number like that. Okay, so the school had a tough 2020. So what you got to do now is you just got to use mathematics to try get this x by itself. So remember, you got to take this now, this part of a year, and you got to somehow take it to the other side. So I'm not sure how you like to do that, but whichever way you do it, you should eventually get that on the right hand side you're going to have this, and then it should become a plus. Okay, this number should become a plus, and it should become 487,776,50. So that is what you should end up with. So you could go type on the calculator then, and your x or your answer should become 374,750. That is the answer. So that is the total income that the school made that year. You see how it's a lot less than all of the other years. It's probably because of lower salaries, I'm guessing. Okay, I'm not going to get too much into the details now, but it's probably from less school fees because students couldn't attend. I'm just guessing, but check here. School fees in 2019, 500,000. In 2020, 300,000. So that makes a huge difference. That's actually the main reason why they are not profitable. Because if you were to add on another like 200,000 Rand, then their profit would actually be pretty good compared to the previous years. It would be fairly similar, actually. This next question says that the value of the actual net income in 2020 is indicated as negative. Yes, it is. What does a negative value mean? It means that they actually made a loss. So we can just say it means the school had a loss. Identify one item within the income. Identify one item within the income. Okay, so income, which could have been the main cause for the school to have a negative value. Okay, so if you go to the income and you look at this one, compared to what they wanted or what they budgeted for, you can see that, okay, there was less income from the tuck shop. There was less income from the national government, but the big one is look at the salary. The school fees. So here it was 500,000 Rand that they wanted to have in school fees, but they only managed to get 300,000 Rand. So that's quite a big one. So that would be the main cause. You could say it's the tuck shop, but come on, guys, that's only like 4,000 Rand that they lost. So I think the big one that they lost out on is the school fees. Okay, so we could say school fees. With this question that we're going to do, here's the first question down here at the bottom. Then there's a second question, a third question, as well as a fourth question. Okay, so let's get started. It says that Table 3 shows the provincial results in mathematical literacy in the National Senior Certificate in 2021. A candidate must achieve 30% to pass. So let's see what they've got here. So we've got the different provinces in South Africa, the 9 different provinces: Eastern Cape, Free State, Gauteng, and so on. For example, in the Eastern Cape, there were 46,960 learners who wrote in 2021, and the percentage that got 30% or more was 72%. So 72% got 30% or more. The other percentage, they failed. They did not get the 30%. Okay. And then, for example, I'll give you one more example. For example, in the Northern Cape, there were 9,000 learners who wrote. And if you look at, only 71.3% got passed, and then the remaining number, they failed. Okay. So these are the percentage of people that passed. Our first question says, determine the total number of candidates who wrote mathematical literacy in 2021 in the Republic of South Africa. So that would be pretty much calculating this value over here. So you would just go ahead and add all of these numbers together. Okay, so you know how to do that, right? You're just going to plus them all together on your calculator. And if you do that, you should get 441,067. The next question says, determine the number of provinces that performed poorer than the national score in 2021 in terms of an achievement. Wait, what? Determine the number of provinces that performed poorer than the national score in 2021 in terms of an achievement of 30% and above. Okay, I don't know about you, but for me, wait, what? Determine the number of provinces that performed poorer than the national score in 2021 in terms of an achievement of 30% or more. Okay, that's a confusing question, unless something's like not clicking in my head. I get it. Determine the number of provinces that performed poorer than the national score. So what they mean is, which provinces did worse than the average. So if you look here, we've got all these percentages, right? Then I didn't realize that they've gone to give us an average. So this is the average for the whole country. So they say, how many provinces did worse than that? So the Eastern Cape is slightly lower than 74.5. KZN, Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Northern Cape. So that is 5 provinces. Okay, so you can just say 5. The next question says, calculate the number of candidates who passed mathematical literacy in the Eastern Cape in 2021. So in the Eastern Cape, there were 46,960 learners who wrote. How many passed? 72.3. So you need to work out what is 72.3% of all of the learners who wrote in the Eastern Cape, which was 46,000 learners. Okay, and so you could say 72.3 over 100, and then multiply by 46960, and then we can just go work that out. And so that's going to give us 33952.08. I was going to say rand, but it's just people. So we can say students. Oh, but now because it's students, we can't really just leave it like that. And so we can just round it down to 33952 students. Okay, now to be honest, I'm not quite sure why we have to round up or round down. Yeah, we can say that this number's closer to this one. But, I thought the memo would have allowed both, because this one's a little bit more. Usually it's easy to know whether we should round up or round down. Like if we needed to know how many bags of sand we need to buy, then you would always round up, because you need more. If you're building a house, for example, and you need bags of sand, and you get an answer like this, well, then you would always round up, because otherwise you're going to run out of sand. But this one was a little bit more weird, so I wouldn't stress too much about it. So I know some of you are going to comment and you're going to be like, yeah, but I said 33953, and I don't blame you. Like, I would say both of those are correct. They should, yeah, it's a bit of a challenging one of whether we should round that one up or down. The memo has it like that. Okay, but yeah, I wouldn't stress too much about that one. Okay, now moving on to this question. It says, determine the probability of selecting a candidate that failed mathematical literacy in 2021 from the people in the Northern Cape. So in the Northern Cape, remember, probability can be a decimal or a percentage. They haven't told us, so we can just go use the percentage. So because we know that in the Northern Cape, 71% of the learners in the Northern Cape passed. So 71.3% passed. So what percent failed? Or you could just say 100 minus 71.3. And that means 28.7% failed. So that would be the probability as well. It's the probability, it's the percentage that someone failed from the Northern Cape. So with this question, we're going to be doing multiple parts. So here's the first part. Then there's a second question and a third question. Okay, so let's get started. It says that the cost price of a Casio and Sharp calculator is advertised in a local store. Okay, so here we've got the Casio and here we've got the Sharp. Okay, they tell us that it was 300 Rand, but now it's selling for 199. So you would save 101 Rand. And then this calculator was 190, but now it's only selling for 150. So you could save 40 Rand. So the first question says, determine for the Sharp calculator the ratio of the savings amount to the original price. So they said the ratio of the savings amount first. So what is the savings amount? It's 40 Rand. Okay, so whoops, why am I writing it like that? 40 Rand. And then what is the original price? The original price is the 190. So you could say 190. Okay, but now they want us to simplify it in the ratio so that it becomes a 1. So how can I turn this number into a 1? What could I do to this number? Well, I could divide it by 40, but mathematics tells us that if you divide on the one side, you must also divide on the other side. So if you say 40 divided by 40, you end up with a 1 on the left, and if you say 190 divided by 40, then you end up with 4.75. This question says, express as a percentage, up to 2 decimal places, the discount amount on the Casio. Okay, so the discount. So the discount is, how much are they decreasing the price by? They're decreasing it by 101 Rand, okay? And what was the original? 300. So to work out the discount percentage, you would say that they're decreasing it by 100 Rand out of the original or total amount of 300, and you're going to multiply that by 100 because they want it as a percentage. Okay, so that's going to give you 33, now if you round that to 2 decimals, 33,67. This question says, grade 12 learners from Tuso High School bought 8 Casio and 12 Sharp calculators on 28 February 2022. Calculate the total saving on the purchase. Okay, so the sales offer was valid from the 14th of February till the 28th, so they're still okay. So they bought 8 Casios, so 8 Casios. So how much did they save? Well, for each calculator that they bought, they saved 101 Rand because they were buying it on a special. So the total amount that they saved there would be 8 multiplied by 101, which would be 808 Rand. Then on the 12 Sharp calculators, for each Sharp calculator, they saved 40 Rand. So you could say 40 multiplied by 12, and that would be 480 Rand. So the total savings would be 808 Rand. plus 480 rand, and that would be 1,288 rand. The current grade 10 learners at Tuso High School plan to have a matric farewell in 2024. They budgeted that they would use 5,500 rand. They fundraised 4,500 rand, which they then invested in a savings scheme that gives an interest rate of 9.5% per annum, compounded annually. Verify whether the class's invested amount will meet their budget. Okay, guys, so you see what they've done is they know, the people at the school, they know that for their matric farewell, they're going to need 5,500 rand. They've been able to save up, or they've been able to fundraise 4,500 rand. So what they're thinking of doing now is to go put this into some type of investment account where they can earn interest. And they want to know if it will be able to earn enough interest to become 5,500 rand in a 2-year period if they are earning 9.5% compounded annually. So we'll have to see what happens after the first year. So for the first year, they're going to earn 9.5%. So we can say multiply by 9.5 over 100. And let's see what they earn for the first year. Okay, so the total interest that they earned is 427 rand and 50 cents. Now, you need to add that on to the original, because this part here is only the interest. This part here is only interest. So how much do they have? After 1 year, they will now have 4,927 rand and 50 cents. Okay, so now they're gonna go into the second year, but now this is how much money they have. So we're gonna start with that amount of money now. That is what compound interest actually means. It means that you're always starting with the new amount. Okay, and so if you had to go work out that now, that year they earned 468 rand and 11 cents. So and that's just interest. So we're now going to go add that on. So 4927.50 plus 468.11. And if you work that out, unlucky, they didn't make it. They got close. 5395.61. So if they invest it like that, they're not going to get to 5,500 rand. So verify showing all calculations. If they'll meet their budget, we can just summarize and say they will not meet their budget. So here we're going to be doing this question, and then we've got another question on the next page, and then there's a third question. Okay, so this one's all about tax. To be honest, I love these questions. Okay, so Miss Nande is a 53-year-old, and okay, so that's important. We'll definitely need to remember that this person is 53 years old. The reason is that when we look at our tax rebates, age is very important, and earns a gross income of that amount per month during the tax year. A non-taxable monthly deduction of 7.5% was made from her salary and paid into her pension fund. Table 4 below shows the tax table for that year. Table 5 shows the rebates. Okay, so explain the term gross income in this context. So remember, gross income is how much somebody earns before any deductions. Okay, so for example, if you have a normal job one day, right? You're working for someone, you're getting paid a salary. Let's say you get paid 20,000 rand. Okay, that is what they pay you. But now here's you. Okay, here's you. Okay, now before that 20,000 reaches you, sometimes certain money gets taken away. For example, maybe 1,000 rand goes for a pension, and yeah. So then how much money do you actually get? That's 19,000 rand. So this one is called your gross income up here, and then this one is usually called like your net income. So your net income is after all of your deductions have been taken away, such as your pension fund, for example. Okay, so gross income is all of your income before deductions. So because they say in this context, we will refer to Miss Nande. So we'll say that it is Miss Nande income before deductions. Okay, so it's her income before deductions. So now we're going to move on to this question over here, which is for 5 marks. Show by calculation that a person who was 75 years and older and earned 151,100 during the 2022 tax year pays no tax. Okay, so these numbers here, sometimes these numbers are given as a monthly. I've seen some questions where these are monthly, but these are going to be yearly income, okay? So this person earned 151,100 Rand. So you got to try to figure out which tax bracket is that? Well, if you're earning 151,100 for the whole year, then that'll put you into the very first tax bracket, where you're earning anywhere between 1 Rand and 216,200. Okay, so this person is going to be in this tax bracket over here. So let's just highlight that. So, how much tax would they pay? Well, you're going to be paying 18% of your taxable income. So we're going to say 18% of however much this person earned, which was 151,100, and if you calculate that, that'll be 27,198 Rand. So that is how much tax this person is supposed to pay. Now, remember that the way that the tax, now we're going to look at the tax rebates. So tax rebates they go like this. If someone is 75 and older, you don't want to just say, oh, okay, so they only get that much. No, it starts at the primary. Did they qualify for that one? Yes. Are they 65 and older? Yes. Are they also 75 and older? Yes. And so you take all of those. So the rebates will be 15,714 plus 8613 plus 2871. If you go add all of that together, oh, look at that. You get exactly 27,198. So that person, the 75-year-old person that they're talking about, was supposed to pay that much in tax, but then the rebate was that. Remember, the rebate is it's money that you don't have to pay. So if you then subtract the two, okay, you can just take out your calculator. Okay, that was a joke, guys. It's the same value, so of course it's going to give you 0. So that's going to be 0 Rand that person pays in tax. All right, now these are my favorite questions. For 8 marks, calculate Miss Nandi's annual tax payable. Okay, so they want to know what is her annual tax that she's going to pay. So the first thing we know is that her monthly income is 39,486. That is a gross income. They also tell us it's gross income. So that is before all of the deductions. Now remember, this tax table uses taxable income. Okay? So that is the income that is allowed to be taxed. So they told us here that a non-taxable deduction. So this deduction is not allowed to be taxed. So we need to, before we can, we can't just use this number to try use the table, because we first need to take away the 7.5% non-taxable deduction. So the 7.5% is not allowed to be taxed. So we need to first go work out what is 7.5% of 39486. And if we work that out, it is 2961.45. So that amount is not allowed to be taxed. So let's quickly subtract now so we can see how much is allowed to be taxed. And if you subtract those two values, you end up with 36,524 Rand and 55 cents. That is a monthly figure. Just remember that, because this year is a monthly figure, and this is allowed to be taxed. But now these tax tables, these values here are based on a per year. So we need to convert that now into a per year. So we just multiply that by 12 because there's 12 months in a year. And that'll give 438,294.60. Okay, so that is this person's taxable income per year. That is the amount that is allowed to be taxed. So now you got to take this value and you got to try to see which tax bracket would that put the person into. And if you do that correctly, you should land up in tax bracket number 3, which is somewhere inside here. Okay, so when you are inside that tax bracket, you are definitely going to pay 70,532 Rand. That is how much tax you would pay in the beginning, 70,532, just because you are in that tax bracket. Now, you need to see, there's also this part. It says that you will also pay 31% of all the income that is above this amount over here. So we need to see how much how much more money do we have than 37,800. So we can say 438,294.60 minus 337,800. And if you had to go work that out, okay, that's just over 100,000. So it's 104,904.60. So that is how much money this person has above 337,800. So that's going to be taxed at 31%. So we're going to tax that at 31%. 31% of 100,494.60. And of course, with percentage, you can say 31 over 100 of means times. And if you had to work this out, that's going to be 31153.33 if you round that to 2 decimal places. So the total tax that this person is going to pay would be the 70,532 plus the 31%, which is that amount over there. And so we are going to go add those two values together, 70,532 plus 31,153.33. And if we work that out, we end up with 101,000. This is not the final answer, 685.33. Then we need to take the rebate into account. Now, Miss Nandi is only 53, so she's definitely not going to be a secondary or tertiary. She's not going to get a secondary or tertiary rebate, but she'll definitely qualify for a primary rebate. So we can then say 101,685.33, and we can take away 15,714, and so the final answer would be 85,971.33. So that is how much tax Miss Nandi would pay for that tax year. With this question, we're going to be doing this first part over here. Then there's going to be a second question, a third question, a fourth question. Oh wow, it's a lot. A fifth question, and a sixth question. Okay, so there will be 6 questions that we will do in total. So let's begin. In South Africa, many people are suffering from chronic health conditions. Population estimation in thousands in the 2020 mid-year for the people with chronic health is given in a table on Annexure B. This is Annexure B's table, okay? Let's just see. Okay, so let's just see what we have here. So we've got the different provinces of South Africa. So it should be all 9 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so we've got the different provinces. We've got, for example, asthma. So the people who are suffering from asthma in the Western Cape, there's 186. But remember, that's 186,000 because this is in thousands. Okay. And then they break that up into how many of them are male and how many of them are female. Okay, so that's what this table is doing. So it's a big table, and then they've also got diabetes, and then they've also got hypertension. All right. So it says, calculate the total number of males with chronic health conditions in KwaZulu-Natal. So we go to KwaZulu-Natal. Now, they didn't say asthma, diabetes, or hypertension. No, they're talking about all of these chronic health conditions, which is the asthma, diabetes, and the hypertension. So if we go look at the in KwaZulu-Natal, and we look at the males who have diabetes, asthma, it's 69, but that's 69,000, okay? And then there is, for diabetes, there are 99,000, and then high blood pressure, 214,000. So we would go add all of those together, so you could say 69,000 plus 99,000 plus 214,000. And if you had to work that out, okay, so we get to 382,000 people. 382,000 people. This question says, use the number of diabetic people to determine the provincial range. Provincial, all of the provinces in South Africa, among provinces in South Africa. So they didn't say males and they didn't say females. So we're going to go to diabetes, because they said diabetic people. And we're going to look at the totals for each province. We're not going to only look at males, and we're not going to only look at females. They just said people in general. And we want to find the range. Remember, the range is the highest minus the lowest. So the highest value is KZN, it looks like, with 363,000. So we'd say 363,000 minus. Now the lowest value of diabetes is in the Northern Cape. So that's going to be 34,000 people. Okay, and if we had to go work that out, we end up with 329,000 people. This question says, calculate the provincial mean. Remember, mean is another word for average. Calculate the provincial average or mean number of people with hypertension in South Africa. So that's all of the provinces. Okay, so calculate the provincial mean of people with hypertension. Did they say males? No. Did they say females? No. They mean everyone. So we're going to go to hypertension, and we're going to look at all of the totals, and we're going to use these numbers, and we're going to go calculate the average from all of those numbers. Okay, now you don't have to change all of them to 1,000. You can just change it to you can just change the final answer to 1,000. So we could say, we know that to calculate the average, you say 725 plus 597 plus 143 plus 316. So I'm just adding all of these numbers together. Okay, and you take all of those numbers and you divide it by how many there are, which would be 9. And if you had to go work this out, okay, and that would give us, now don't round off, that's going to give us 526.22222, and it just goes on and on and on. Then we need to just change that to the 1,000, so we just multiply by 1,000, so multiply by 1,000. And then if we round this onto two decimal places, it's 562.222.22. This question says, determine the median, which means it's another name for the middle. Determine the median of the total chronic health conditions of the various provinces in the Republic of South Africa. Okay, now they have not asked about males only, females only, and they did not mention a specific chronic health condition like asthma or diabetes. They want everything. So they said determine the middle or the median of the total chronic health conditions for the various provinces. So we are going to have to go work out the totals for every single province. So for the Western Cape, I'm going to write it up here. For the Western Cape, you are going to go add the total asthma plus the total diabetes plus the total high blood pressure. So you're going to say 186 plus 314 plus 725, and that is 1225. Now obviously it's 1225,000, but let's just leave it like that for now. Because remember, to get the median, you have to first arrange all the values from smallest to largest. But we need to first go get all of these values. Okay, it's quite a long question. The Eastern Cape, let's do that one next. So you would just repeat, okay? You're going to go add up all of these values. So there I went and calculated all of the values for the different provinces. Now, to do the median, you have to arrange them from smallest to largest, okay? So here we've got Western Cape, Eastern Cape, Northern Cape, Free State, KZN, Northwest, Gauteng, Mpumalanga, and Limpopo. So what is the smallest value? It looks like it's going to be the Northern Cape. Okay, so we put that one first. Then, okay, so we've done the Northern Cape. The next smallest value would be Limpopo at 406. Then the Free State at 433. Then Mpumalanga at 500. Then the Northwest at 547. Eastern Cape at 987. And then what's next? Western Cape at 1225. Then KZN at 1290. And then Gauteng province at 1803. Now you got to find the middle value. So there's many ways you can do that. You can cross off on the left and on the right, and then do that again, do that again, do it again. Oh, look at that. What's in the middle? 547. So it says determine the median of the total. So it's 547,000. Now we can just add 1,000. This next question says use the answer sheet to draw a line graph to represent the total number of people suffering from diabetes. So here I've gone and added, and this is the answer sheet, by the way. Now, before you do any plotting, you should always understand how the y-axis for each graph works. So, for example, if we have 300 over here, right, and then that's 350, then that means this would be 310, this would be 320, this would be 330, and this would be 340. So each of these little lines is going up by 10, okay? It won't always be like that, so you need to make sure for each test or exam that you are in. Okay, so the first one is the Western Cape, so we go to 314. So that would be a little bit more than this line over here, right? Because that's the 310 line, so it'll probably be nearly in the middle. Okay, then Eastern Cape, 224. So 200, and then you'd go to the second line, because that would be 20, and then probably in the middle like that. So, okay, and then the Northern Cape was just 34. So Northern Cape, 34, so that's going to be about there. And then Free State, 87, which is about there. Okay, and then KwaZulu-Natal, 363, which is about there. And then Northwest, 91. Gauteng, 335. Mpumalanga, 94. And then Limpopo, 91, which is about there. Now, to do a line graph, you just go to the beginning part, and you're just going to connect all these lines now. So ideally you would have a ruler. I don't have a ruler on the screen right now, but I'm going to try to draw these lines as straight as possible. So we're going to go there, then we're going to go down to there, but it must be a straight line, not a curve. Something like that. Up to there, then up to the next one, there, like that. But remember, these are with a straight, with a ruler, hey? Okay, now this question says, determine the probability as a percentage of randomly selecting a diabetic female among chronic health suffering people in KwaZulu-Natal. So you might need to read that a few times, but it says determine the probability of selecting a diabetic female. Okay, so it's a diabetic female. Now, who are you choosing from? Are you choosing from everyone? They said among all the chronic health suffering people, so that's asthma, diabetes, and hypertension, in KwaZulu-Natal. So we're only looking at KwaZulu-Natal. Okay, so we're only going to look at KwaZulu-Natal. Now, out of all of those people, it says among all the chronic health suffering people in KwaZulu-Natal. So how many people are suffering in KwaZulu-Natal with chronic health conditions? Well, that would be the 170 plus the 363 plus the 757. So that's your total. 170 plus 363 plus 757. That is the total. Now, they said choosing a diabetic female. So we're going to go to diabetes. We're going to go to female specifically. in KwaZulu-Natal, and that would be 264. So 264 out of all of the people suffering with chronic health conditions in KwaZulu-Natal, and then we're going to times that by 100 because we would like it as a percentage. And this should give you 20. If we round it to 2 decimal places, it'll be 20.47%. With this question, we're going to be doing multiple parts. So we've got one question over there, and then we've got a second question, and then a third question. Okay, let's get started. It says that the population of South Africa during the mid-year of 2020 was estimated at 59.62 million people. The graph below represents the population per province. Okay, so the Northern Cape, there were 1.29 million people. Mpumalanga, 4.68 million people. So remember, those numbers are in millions. So the first question says, state the type of graph used to display this information. So whenever you've got these bars and there is a gap in between them, then that is a bar graph. So we'll say bar graph. This question for 4 marks says, determine the population of Gauteng. Well, now think about this. So we know that there's 59.62 million people in South Africa at that time. This is for Northern Cape, Mpumalanga, Eastern Cape, Free State, Limpopo, Northwest, Western Cape, KwaZulu-Natal. So if we add all of those numbers together, then we can subtract it from this number to see how much is left over for Gauteng. So let's quickly go add up 1,29 plus 4,68 plus 6,73. Sorry, this is going to go on different lines. 5,85 plus 4,11 plus 7,01 plus 11,53. If we go add all of this together, that'll give us 44.13 million. Okay, so then you can just say 59.62 and you take away that 44.13 and that'll give you 15.49 million. And then they say, and write your final answer in words. So okay, so that's actually 15,490,000. So you would say 15 million, and then 400. Whoopsie, 400 and why am I doing that? 90,000. This question says, calculate the interquartile range for the provincial populations. So you may use the formula Q3 minus Q1. Now this is 5 marks. The reason is, remember, when you are doing median, interquartile range, all of those things, the numbers have to be, this is important, the numbers have to be written from smallest to largest. So that's going to be step 1. Now remember, Gauteng is the largest actually. It's like 15, we said 15.49 million. Okay, so we need to start with smallest to largest. So smallest would be Northern Cape. So that's going to be 1.29. Okay, then the next smallest would be Free State, 2.93. Who's next? Northwest, 4.11. Who's next? Mpumalanga, 4.68. Next, Limpopo. Next, Eastern Cape, which is 6.73. Next is Western Cape, which is 7.01. And then, okay, let me try to get these numbers next to each other. Just give me a second. Okay, so I moved the numbers down there because I was definitely going to run out of space. Then it's KwaZulu-Natal with 11.53, and then Gauteng, which was 15.49. So now we want to find Q3. Okay, so Q3 is, to find Q3, it's the middle of the upper half, if that makes sense. So let me show you a nice way to do this. So let's find the middle first. So if you had to look carefully, this would be the middle value. Okay, so that's the middle value. Let's put a block around that. So to find Q3, you need to look at these numbers and find the middle number. Now, what is the middle number when there's 4 numbers? Well, you can't really find a middle number. But would you agree with me that it's in between these two? Okay, so it's in between those two, right? So you could then say, you could find the middle. To find the middle of any 2 numbers, or the halfway point, you just add the 2 numbers together, and then you divide those 2 numbers by 2. Or you divide that number by 2, sorry. So that is 9.27. To find Q1, it is the middle of the lower half. So here's the lower half. So what is the middle? So what is the middle of these 4 numbers? Well, it would be somewhere between these 2. So you're just going to add those 2 numbers together, but then divide that by 2. And that'll be 3.52. And so now we can use our formula, which is Q3 minus Q1. And that's going to be 9.27, take away 3.52. And that'll be 5.75. And then remember that that's actually in million, so we can say million. So this question will be broken up into parts. So here we have the first question, and then we've got a second and a third question over there. So let's begin. Mr. Booty and his daughter Jane use the same cell phone network provider, but they use it under different conditions. So Mr. Booty is on a contract where he pays a fixed cost of 200 Rand per month, and he gets 100 minutes for free. And after that, if he needs even more, then he pays 1 Rand 20 per minute after the first free 100 minutes. So the total cost, so think about what he pays per month. How would you work out what he pays? Well, he always pays 200 Rand, okay? And then you need to see what this part over here would be, which is this part here is calculating if he goes over 100 minutes, then you multiply that by 120. And so that's just a little formula that they're giving us over there to calculate what his total cost would be. Jane is on a prepaid, so she's on a prepaid. Like, she doesn't have a contract, so she doesn't pay like a 200 Rand per month. She just pays 1 Rand 75 per minute. That's it. Hers is very easy and simple. So let's have a look. It says calculate the values of C and D. So this is all for Mr. Booty, this table. So think about this carefully. If Mr. Booty does not make any phone calls, then how much does he pay per month? He still pays 200 Rand because that is what his contract is worth, okay? Now, think about this carefully. How many minutes does he get for free? He gets 100 minutes for free. So if he made 50 minutes of calling in that 1 month, then he's not going to pay any extra than the 200 Rand. Because remember, he pays 200 Rand, and with that, he gets 100 minutes for free. So if he only uses 50 minutes, then he won't have to pay extra. Okay? Now, what if he uses 100 minutes? Well, then he's still going to pay 200 Rand because he's allowed to use 100 minutes for free. It's only when he goes after the 100 minutes, then he starts paying a little bit extra. So C will be 200 Rand as well. Now, think about, let's do some calculations together. Let's say he does 200 minutes. Then how much would he have to pay per month? Well, let me show you how they calculated this amount over here. So he always pays 200 Rand per month, just because of the contract, okay? Then, if he uses more than 100 minutes, then he will pay 1 Rand 20 for every extra minute that he uses. So how many extra minutes does he use in this one? Think about it carefully. He speaks for a total of 200 minutes, but how many minutes were already for free? 100 minutes were already for free. So how many minutes did he go extra? He went 100 minutes extra. So for those 100 minutes, he will pay 1 Rand 20 for every single minute that he goes over. So if you had to go calculate that, you would end up with 320 Rand. And that is what they're getting over here. Let me show you how they got this number, just out of your own interest. So if he speaks for 300 minutes, then he's always going to pay 200 Rand per month. And then for every minute that he goes over the free 100 minutes, he'll pay 1 Rand 20. So here he speaks for 300 minutes. But remember that the first 100 are free, so he only speaks for an extra 200 minutes after the 100-minute free. And so if you work this out, you would end up with 440. And that's exactly what you're getting over here. So now it's 500, but now that's the cost. So we somehow have to work backwards now. Now, how would you do that? Well, what you can do is, this is the total cost of 500 Rand, okay? But how much of that was from the monthly contract? Well, 200 Rand is for the monthly contract. So you could say 500 Rand minus 200, and that's going to be 300 Rand. So he spent an extra 300 Rand on all of his calls. So you could then say 300 Rand divided by 1 Rand 20, and that's going to be 250 extra minutes that he used. So he used 250 extra minutes, okay? But he also used the 100 minutes free. So that's going to be, if you plus those two numbers together, 250 plus 100, that would be 350 for D. 350. Okay, so this question, explain the term prepaid. So prepaid, look at the word carefully, prepaid. So you pay before you use the airtime. So you go to the shop or you go to your banking app and you buy the airtime first and then you can use it. So you can say here, you pay for your airtime before you use it. Okay, you pay for your airtime before you use it. This question says, calculate the cost Jane paid in a month if she calls for 200 minutes. Well, her system is really easy. She just pays 1 Rand 75 per minute. So you can just say 200 multiplied by 1.75, and that will be 350 Rand. So this question will be broken up into parts. So here's the first part. And then here's the next two questions. Okay, so Booty has an Elite account with one of the banks in South Africa. Table 7 shows deposit fees applicable on his account in 2022. So, okay, so they're giving us some type of transaction. So the first question says, determine the minimum amount that one will pay when making a deposit of notes and coins. Okay, so even if you go to the bank and let's say you don't deposit. Okay, well, the way it works is the following. You're going to pay 80 Rand, okay? They're just going to charge you 80 Rand no matter what. Then they're going to charge you 2 Rand 25 for every 100 Rand that you deposit, and that can be notes, it can be 10 Rands, 20 Rands, it doesn't matter, but you're going to be charged 2 Rand 25 for every 100 Rand that you deposit, and then you're going to be charged 5 Rand for every 100 Rand in coins, okay? That's how they're going to charge you. Okay, so it says determine the minimum amount. Well, that'll be 80 Rand. No matter what you deposit, you're always going to pay 80 Rand. Booty says that he will be charged 180 Rand when he makes a deposit of notes to the value of 1,500 and 500 Rand in coins. Show by means of calculations whether his statement is valid for 5 marks. Okay, so he's definitely going to pay 80 Rand, no matter what. Then, for the notes, how many notes is it? 1,500. So, for every 100 Rand in notes, you are going to pay 2 Rand 25. So how many 100 Rands can you fit into that? Well, that's going to be 1,500. If you divide that by 100, that's going to be 15. So there are 15 100 Rands there. And for each 100, you pay 2 Rand 25. Okay? And then for the coins, he does 500 Rand. And how much do you pay? You pay 5 Rand for every 100 rand. So how many 100 rands does he have there? Well, he's got 5 of them. So he's going to pay 5 rand times 5. Okay? And if you had to go work this all out, you only end up with 138 rand and 75 cents. So Booty is a little bit wrong. So we'll say that his calculation is not valid. So calculation not valid. Okay, now these questions say that Mr. Booty deposited 1,500 rand. Wait, what? Mr. Booty deposited 1,500 rand, an amount from sale of goods that were sold at a value-added tax inclusive price. Calculate the VAT amount on goods sold. Okay, so I've always told learners that, there's all these weird fancy calculations that teachers use, but the special number that you need to remember when you think about VAT is 1.15. Okay? If you need to add VAT, multiply by 1.15. If you need to take VAT away, divide. Okay, let me write that down. If you need to add VAT, then multiply. If you need to remove VAT, then divide. Okay, so Mr. Booty deposited 1,500 rand, an amount that was sold at a value inclusive price. Okay, so VAT is already inside there. So we need to take the VAT away. So what are we going to do? Divide. So we're going to say 1,500 divided by 1.15. Now let's see what we get. 1,000. Now this is the price without the VAT. This is not the answer. 1304.35 if you round to 2 decimal places. That's not the final answer. That is what the price is without the VAT. So it says now calculate the VAT amount. So then you can just see that's the price with VAT. That's the price without VAT. So by minusing those two, then you can work out the VAT. So you could say 1,500 take away 1,304.35. And that'll give you 195.65. Next question says, name at least one method Booty can use to send money to a person who does not have a bank account. Okay, well he could use a cash send. Okay, or you could use e-wallet, for example. This question will be broken up into parts. This will be the first question we look at. Then there's a second question and a third question. So it says that a tourist from Japan arrives in East London on 26 March 2022 to tour some of the parts of the Eastern Cape for 5 days. He plans to use an average of 4,042 rand and 19 cents per day. Yo, that guy's got a nice budget, okay? The tourist's first tour was a return trip from East London to Humansdorp. Okay, the tourist's first tour was a return trip from East London to Humansdorp. Okay, so you went from East London to Humansdorp and then back to East London because it's a return trip, okay? The conditions are as follow. The tourist paid for his petrol on a rented car. The rented car is given with a full tank and must be returned with a full tank. The car rental fee rate is 182 cents per kilometer. Okay, then the distance from East London to Humansdorp, and then the cost of petrol is 19 rand 89 per litre at the time. The tourists opted for a Toyota Corolla 1.6 that uses 7 litres per 100. Okay, so they're giving us a whole bunch of information, but let's see what they say here. Calculate the total Japanese yen he exchanged for the 5-day use, if the exchange rates between RSA and Japanese yen is given in the table below. Okay, so I don't think that has anything to do with the car. What that has to do with is that he plans to use this amount of money per day. Okay, and he did that for 5 days. So how much rand did he use in 5 days? Well, let's go work that out. So we can say 4042.19 multiplied by 5 days. Okay, so this dude used like 20,000. Oh, it could be a... Oh, no, it did say he. Okay, so 20,210.95. Okay, so that is how much money he used in the 5 days. In 5 days. But now we need to, it says calculate the total Japanese yen that he used for 5 days. So we need to convert this to Japanese yen. Now that means we're going to use this currency conversion table. Okay, now they're being complicated. So check this out. That we know that 5 rand will give us 37.51715 Japanese yen. So what would 1 rand give us? Well, how would I turn this number into a 1? Remember, this is ZAR and this is yen. So what would 1 rand give you? Well, to get this into a 1, you would divide this side by 5. And in mathematics, what you do to the one side, you do to the other side. So 1 rand will give us 7.50343. So for 1 rand, you will be able to get that many Japanese yen. So what would happen if you have 20,210? So just think about that carefully. For every 1 rand you have, that is how many Japanese yen you can get. So if you have 20,000 rand, how would you work out your Japanese yen? Well, you could say 20,210.95 multiply by 7.50343. Okay, and so this guy exchanged 151,651.45, if you round to 2 decimal places, Japanese yen. So I'm just going to put a Y, however they're doing that, a Y with 2 lines. This next question says, calculate the rental fee for the return trip between East London and Humansdorp, excluding petrol. So we don't have to take petrol into account. So then let's see how they do this. Okay, so the tourist paid for his petrol, blah, 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 blah. The rented car is given, okay, blah, blah, blah. Car rental fee, here we go, 182 cents per kilometer. And this is how far this guy's going to drive. But be careful, that is how far he will drive from East London to Humansdorp. Okay, but remember that it is a return trip, so the guy has to come back home. So he's going to travel this distance twice. And so that's going to be 737.2 kilometers. Okay, now for every kilometer they are going to charge you 182 cents. That's not the petrol. That's just because you're using their car. You're damaging their tires, you're using their engine, you're using the car. They have to charge you for that. Not that's without the petrol. So you're being charged 182 cents for every single kilometer that you drive. So you're going to multiply. Sorry, that's 182, and if you work that out, that's going to be 134,170.4, and that is going to be in cents. But now let's convert that to rand. So remember that 1 rand is 100 cents. So we're going to have to divide this by 100. And so that's going to be 1,341 rand and 70 cents. Now this question says, calculate the cost of petrol for the return trip above. Okay, so now they want to know the petrol cost. So the petrol cost is all going to be calculated by using this number, and this number. So stick with me, this might be quite interesting. Okay, so we need to first know how far this person's going to drive. So remember, we already calculated that by saying 368,6 multiplied by 2, and that was 737.2 kilometers. Okay, now this particular car uses 7 liters for every 100 kilometers. So I'm just going to say here, for every 100 kilometers, this car will use 7 liters of petrol. So as soon as it drives 100 kilometers, it'll use 7 liters of petrol. Okay, so what we can do then is see how much would it use in 1 kilometer. So if you only drive 1 kilometer, so how could I get this to become a 1? Well, you could divide it by 100. But what you do in maths, to the one side, you have to do to the other side. So that means 1 kilometer will use 0.07 liters if you type that on your calculator. So think about that carefully. If your car drives 1 kilometer, it will use 0.07 liters of petrol. But how far did we drive? This is how far we drove. So how many liters did we use? Well, you would then say 737.2 multiplied by 0.07. Okay, because for every 1 kilometer, that's how many liters you would use. So if you drive this many kilometers, then you would just multiply those two numbers, and that would be 51.604 liters of petrol. Now, if you look at the petrol price, it is 19 rand and 89 cents for every single liter. So how many liters did we use? Well, we used 51.604. So to work out the price, you would say 51.604 multiplied by 19.89. And so that's going to be 1,026 rand and 40 cents if you round to 2 decimal places. So in this question, we have a table which table that shows the cost of movie tickets at Gompo Mall in 2021 and 2022. Okay, so it's movie tickets. Guys, personally, for me, I love watching movies at the cinema. That doesn't mean I go a lot. I mean, maybe once every 2 months or so, but I love it. I don't know, ever since I was a kid. I still enjoy it so much. So it says that these are the cost of movie tickets. So let me just show you how this table works. So this is for children who are under 18 years old. In 2021, they spent 40 rand, or they paid 40 rand for a ticket. In 2022, they paid 60 rand. Then if you are an adult, you would pay that amount, and then in 2022 it was that amount, and then if you're a pensioner, that is what you pay. Okay. Then they give us some more information here. So in May 2021, tickets sold were 60% of the May 2022 sales. 930 movie tickets were sold in May 2022. Okay, and then the ratio of tickets sold is usually adults, children, pensioners in the ratio of 2 to 3 to 1. Okay, so interesting information. So the first question says, determine the number of tickets bought by children under 18 in May 2022. Okay, so what we can see here is that in May 2022, there were 930 tickets sold in total, 930. But now we know the ratio of adults, children, pensioners. Okay, so that's in a 2 to 3 to 1 ratio. So have you learned how to take a big number and then how to break it up into ratios? Well, let me remind you. What you do is you add this together. So that's 2 plus 3 plus 1. Which is 6. You then say 930 divided by 6, which is 150. Now, according to this ratio, the adults, children, pensioners is 231. So it's adult, children, pensioners. So the children would be 3 parts. So you'd then say 155 multiplied by 3. And that's going to give us 465 tickets that were purchased by children in May 2022. This question says, determine the amount received from tickets bought by adults in May 2021. Okay, so we know that in May 2022, there were 930 tickets sold. But what about May 2021? Well, if you read this sentence, it says that in May 2021, tickets sold were 60% of the May 2022. So we can just go work out 60% of the May tickets, and that was 930. And so remember that to work that out, you could say 60 over 100 multiplied by 930. And that's 558 tickets. And that would be for May 2021. Okay, but now the ratio in May and in 2021 and 2022 of adults, children, pensioners is this amount of a year. So now what we need to do is we need to go do this process all over again. But now we have 558 tickets. So once again, if you add these numbers together, that is going to be 6. So you'd say 558 over 6, which is 93. Now we're looking for adults. So they were 2 parts. So you could then say 93 multiplied by 2, which is 186 tickets. Okay, so we know that the number of tickets for adults was 186 in 2021. Now in 2021, how much did adults pay? They paid 45 Rand per ticket. So we could say 186 times 45, and that'll be 8,370 Rand. This question is going to come in parts. So here's the first question, second question, third question, fourth question, and fifth question. So 5 questions. So the first part says Annexure C, which is this in the pie charts, shows tourists from other countries to South Africa in 2019 and 2020. Okay, let me explain just in case you don't understand. So in 2019, this is how many tourists there were, nearly 2 million. And we can see that, and these people are all coming to South Africa. So we can see that Switzerland was accounted for 3% of all of the people. Germany was 17.5%. There's France, Netherlands, Australia. Okay, you get the idea. This is the same type of thing in 2020. A lot less tourists. We all know why, hey? The year 2020. So, the first question says, name another type of graph that you could use to display the information. So you could use like a bar graph, for example. Okay. And how would that look, just out of interest? So you could have, like, for example, Australia over here, and then India, for example. And then you would have 2 graphs, like one for 2020 and one for 2019, for example. And then for India, you would do the same, one for 2019, one for 2020. So you could also call this, because we're using 2 graphs or 2 things, 2 bars next to each other, we also call that a compound. So another way you could probably show this is with like some type of cool bar graph. So I'll show you how it would look. You could start with like Australia, for example. These numbers here on the left would be your percentages. And then, so for example, you could show Australia in 2019. And then immediately next to that, you could show Australia in 2020, for example. Then you could leave a little gap, and then you could do India or something like that. And then you would do 2019 for India, and then 2020 for, India in 2020. So that is called a compound bar graph. Okay, you could also use a line graph. So for example, you would have Australia, and then you would have your percentages, and then you would just go like that, and that would be like your 2019 line, and then you could have like another one which would be like your 2020 line. So you could also use a line graph. This question says, identify the country that had the least number of visitors in 2020. So we'll go to 2020 and we'll just look for the number that is the lowest. So it looks like it is Switzerland, 3.3. So it says identify the country, that would be Switzerland. This question says, Inako said that 435,582 tourists came from the UK in 2019. Show all calculations to see whether this is correct. Now, let's go to 2019, go to the UK. There's nothing there. But that's okay, because what we can do is we need to realize that in a pie chart, all of these percentages are going to add up to, well done, 100%. So we could go and say 100%, and we could take away all the other numbers, 17.5 for Germany, 20.5 for USA, 9, 8, 6, 4 for Brazil, 5, 3.6 for Canada, and 3 for Switzerland. Go work that out, and you end up with 23.4. So that means that the UK would have to be 23.4. So the UK would be 23.4%. Now what we can do is look at the total number of tourists, and we can see what 23.4% of that is. So we could say 23.4 over 100, multiply by 1848412. And if we had to work that out, we end up with 432,528.41 but let's just round that down to 432,528. 432. Let me write that a bit better. 528. So the friend Onako is actually wrong. It's close, but it's not exact. So statement is not correct. Statement not correct. This question says, determine the probability as a decimal of randomly selecting a tourist from a country that shows neither a decrease or an increase in number of visitors. Now, they didn't ask this question really nicely, but what they meant was in terms of percentage. They want to, so because, okay, I don't want to get too technical here, but you see how the total tourist number is different. So yes, here Germany was 17.5, and here Germany was 22.2. So the percentage is different, but that might not mean that the number of people is different, because here it's 22.2% of that amount, and here it's 17.5% of that amount. But I had to go check the memo, and they weren't talking about the number of people actually. They were talking about which countries have the same percentage. So, for example, France is 9% for both of them. Okay? So it says determine the probability, and that's the only country that stayed the same. So it says determine the probability of randomly selecting a tourist from a country that shows neither a decrease or an increase. Well, out of 100%, that you could have chosen from, either there or there, to choose France would be 9 out of 100. Okay, so out of a total of 100%, France was 9%. So you could say 9 out of 100, and as a decimal, 0.09. And then this question says, give one possible reason why there was a decrease in the number of tourists from other countries in 2020 compared to 2019. Well, this is obviously due to COVID restrictions, okay? So in the year 2020, that's when COVID hit us. So because of that, there would be less tourists. So we could just say COVID-19. This question will carry on to the next page. So we've got 2 questions over here, and then on the next page, we have a question over there. So, Mr. Jabu lives in Komani in the Enoch Imganjima municipality and uses prepaid electricity that is sold to customers at a VAT inclusive rate. Table 10 shows the cost. Okay, so let's just go through this just to understand this a little bit. So if you use block 1, then that means you are someone who uses anywhere between 0 and 50 kilowatts, then they will charge you this amount per kilowatt. Okay? If you start using more electricity, then you are going to start paying more for you're going to start paying more per kilowatt. It's almost their way of trying to stop you from wasting electricity. So as you start using more, they're going to start increasing the price. Okay? So the first question says, state any 2 reasons why it is an advantage for the municipality to sell prepaid electricity. Well, okay, so let's just explain how that works. There are 2 main ways to get electricity here in South Africa. One of them is using prepaid. Now there's that word prepaid. Prepaid means that you pay before you use it. And the other one is just using like a normal account. So I remember when I was younger, we never had a prepaid meter in our house. So what happened was you would use your electricity, right? You would use your electricity, and then at the end of the month, the municipality would send my parents an invoice of how much we used, and then you would have to pay. Now, that is the old way of doing it, okay? The new way is where we use prepaid. So you have like some type of prepaid box in your house, and you go onto your banking app, or maybe you go to the shop and you buy your electricity, and then you enter the number into your box, and then you can use your electricity. So you pay before you use it. Whereas when I was younger and we did it like this, you would pay after you use it. Okay, so why would it be better for a municipality to use prepaid? Well, one of the reasons is that they get their money immediately. Instead of waiting after the month to get their money, they get their money immediately. They get the money immediately. There's also not going to be any debt. I mean, think about some people who cannot afford to pay their electricity at the end of the month. Then they're just not going to pay, and then the municipality is going to be in debt. So there will be no, this is a second reason, no debt. Okay? There's not going to be any people who are like not paying for their electricity. Okay, this question says, determine the number of units that Mr. Jabu received when he bought prepaid electricity for 68 Rand and 2 cents. Okay, so what I notice is that this is in Rand, whereas this is in cents. So you got to change it to one, or you got to change one of them. So I'm going to actually change this one over here to cents. So remember that in 1 Rand, it's 100 cents. So I'm going to multiply this by 100. And that would be 6,802 cents. So what I'm then going to do, if you look here, this is for every 1 unit, you're going to pay 144 cents. So let's see how many units he could get. So I'm going to say 6,802 divided by 144.72. We're lucky. We got 47 units. If it went more than 50, then we would have a bit of a problem, because then it means that he actually bought some units in this one and then some units in this one. But his units was only 47, so he's still within this over here. So it says determine the number of units that he received. It'll be 47 units. This question says that Mr. Jabu stated that the percentage profit that the municipality makes when a customer buys this many units is more than 34%. Verify by showing all calculations if his claim is valid. Okay, so remember, the way it works is that the following. You've got Eskom, right? Now, they create the electricity. Okay, so let's put a little bubble here. They create electricity. They then sell it to the municipality. The municipality then gives it to each of us in our homes. Okay? These are our homes. So, the municipality is obviously needing to make money. So they're going to buy it from Eskom at a certain price, and then they're going to sell it to us at a certain price. So here in this table, at the bottom here, they tell us that the municipality buys electricity from Eskom at a VAT inclusive price of 1 Rand 33. Okay, so that's 1 Rand 33 per unit. Then they sell it to us. At, for example, 1 Rand 44. Well, 1 Rand, yeah, if you round that, it'll be about 1 Rand 44. This would be about 1 Rand 86, 2 Rand 61, and 3 Rand and 8 cents. You see, so they're selling it a little bit more, but that's normal because they're trying to make a bit of money, because it's like a business. So it says, Mr. Jabu stated that the percentage profit when a customer buys 290 kilowatts is going to be more than 34%. Okay, so what we need to be careful of here is that if someone buys 290 kilowatts, some of it's going to be inside here, and then the rest is going to be inside here. Okay, so someone buys 290 kilowatts. The first 50 kilowatts is going to be priced at this amount over here. So I'm going to just keep everything in cents for now. So we could say 50 multiplied by 144.72. Okay, now, how many units do we still have left over? Well, there's 290 units in total. So if you already bought 50 of them here, then there's still going to be 240 units. Now, those 240 units are going to be inside here. Okay, because to go from 50 to 350, that's 300. So we're going to buy the next 240 units over there. So that's 240. But now this price will be 186 cents. So 186.06. And so if we work out the total cents, it's going to be 51,890.4. Now we need to change that to Rand. So let's divide everything by one. Let's divide that by 100. And that'll be 518 Rand and 90 cents. So that is what the person who is buying the electricity from the municipality would spend. Okay? So that's called the selling price. Okay, now we need to go get the cost price. The cost price is how much does the municipality pay Eskom? Okay, so we need to go see what does the municipality pay Eskom. Because this is the selling price. This is the price that that we pay. You know, the normal people in South Africa, that's what we pay. But now let's go see what the municipality pays Eskom. So they pay Eskom R1.33 per unit. How many units did we buy? Where did it tell us? Where's it? 290. And that's only 385 Rand. 385 Rand and 70 cents. That is the cost price. Okay? So now we have everything that we need to use the formula. So percentage profit would be the selling price, which is 518.90, minus the cost price, which is 385.70, divided by the cost price again, and then multiplied by 100. Just remember to squeeze the 100 in the correct way, like you can see it over here. Oh yeah, 34. It's a good profit. Percentage profit is 34. 0.53%. So Mr. Jabu stated that the percentage profit is more than 34%. Yes, it is. It's 34.53%. So we could say claim is valid. Claim is valid.